Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. When we picture ancient Rome, it's so easy, right, to just default to the gladiators, the togas, and those pristine white marble columns. But today, we are completely ditching the fairy tales. We're going to pop the hood and look at the actual nuts and bolts of how this massive machine really worked. So, this single question is driving our entire explainer today. How did a totally ordinary, kind of unremarkable little town next to the Tiber River pull off this unbelievable level of dominance? I mean, expanding from the damp moors of Britain all the way down to the Sahara, that wasn't just about military muscle. It took some serious social engineering and infrastructure. To make sense of over 1,000 years of history, here is our roadmap. Number 1, the myth versus the mechanic. 2, the infrastructure of empire. 3, Rome's secret weapon. 4, the price of power. And finally, number 5, transformation and fracture. Let's get right to it. Section 1, the myth versus the mechanic, how Rome actually grew. You know, most ancient cities really loved to claim they miraculously sprang from the pristine soil of their homeland. Rome's own myth involves Romulus and Remus being suckled by a wolf, which sounds great, but the reality is so much more fascinating. Romulus actually declared his new city an asylum. He literally welcomed criminals, runaway slaves, and outcasts. So their early survival wasn't based on magic or divine right, but on a super pragmatic mechanic of just absorbing outsiders and defeated enemies to put boots on the ground. By the 3rd century BC, this strategy allowed Rome to call upon a staggering 700,000 soldiers. No wolf required. Section 2. The infrastructure of empire, connecting the ancient world. Look at this number for a second. 80,000. That is the jaw-dropping number of kilometers of paved highways the Romans built. To put that into perspective, that's enough paved road to wrap around the entire Earth twice. Before this, the world was honestly just a disjointed mess of winding local dirt tracks. The Romans essentially engineered a unified geography that connected Spain directly to the Middle East. It introduced a totally new way of experiencing the world. You could get on a road in Rome, stick on it, and just end up in Greece. All roads literally did lead to Rome. And those roads and sea routes carried an unbelievable amount of stuff. 7 million. That represents the millions of liters of Spanish olive oil shipped to the city of Rome every single year. The Romans built a massive, unified internal economy operating on a scale that was just unprecedented. We're talking about one of the very first true examples of globalization, where the hills of southern Spain were literally transformed into a giant monoculture just to fuel the capital. And get this level of massive industry left a permanent mark on our planet. Deep in the Arctic ice sheets of Greenland, scientists have found a really sharp spike in methane levels right around year 1. All that biomass burning and the huge silver smelting operations in places like Spain caused atmospheric pollution on a scale never seen before. We can literally track Rome's industrialization and environmental footprint trapped thousands of miles away in the ice. And it's a level of pollution that wouldn't be seen again for over 1,000 years. Section 3. Rome's secret weapon, citizenship, and the radical idea of assimilation. So how do you hold all that together? Because you definitely can't maintain an empire that size with just concrete and swords. The Romans used a totally unique social glue, and that was citizenship. This is honestly perhaps the most radical idea of the entire ancient world. Unlike other empires that strictly oppressed the people they conquered, Rome actively incorporated its former enemies into its own ranks. They literally made the conquered into the conquerors. It was a legal status that offered real rights and, most importantly, a stake in the empire itself. You didn't even have to speak Latin or give up your local gods, and eventually, by the year 212 AD, full citizenship was granted to every free inhabitant of the empire. And this brilliant policy created a world of just incredible mobility. Take this specific tombstone found in northern Britain, right near Hadrian's Wall. It belongs to Regina, who is a native British Catufaloni woman, and her husband Barates, a Syrian man from Palmyra. The fact that a British woman and a Syrian man were married, living their lives together on the damp frontiers of northern Britain, it just perfectly captures the staggering cultural mixing of the Roman world. This level of diversity meant that skilled individuals from the absolute margins of the empire could climb to the highest echelons of power. As we can see here, the Emperor Hadrian himself had Spanish roots, And even more incredibly, a guy named Quintus Lollius Urbicus, who was born in a tiny rural village in Algeria, rose all the way through the ranks to become the governor of Roman Britain. Just think about that. A provincial African man governing other provincials on the complete opposite side of the known world. Section 4. The Price of Power, Exploitation and Conquest. Now, it's really easy for us to marvel at the upward mobility and the amazing aqueducts, but we absolutely have to acknowledge the brutal reality that actually fueled this lavish civilization. Carthage must be destroyed. This absolutely chilling phrase from a hardline Roman senator is a stark reminder of the total annihilation Rome directed at its rivals. When they defeated Carthage in 146 BC, they essentially wiped the city from the face of the earth. When Julius Caesar conquered Gaul, modern estimates say his armies killed around 1 million people. The famous Pax Romana, the Roman peace, well, it was fundamentally a peace born out of totally aggressive military force and pacification. Because behind those gleaming marble columns was a massive, silent underclass. Look at this really heartbreaking artifact. It's the tombstone of a little boy named Quintus. He lived to be just 4 years old, and he is remembered on his memorial wearing a little tunic, holding a pickaxe on a basket, destined for the Spanish silver mines. Slaves were basically the operating system of the empire. They picked the olives, they quarried the stone, and they died in dark tunnels to physically extract the wealth of Rome. Section 5. Transformation and fracture, not a sudden fall. People are always asking, so why did Rome fall? But honestly, it's more about how it evolved to survive its own massive scale. If we visualize the empire kind of like a sliced pizza, we can easily understand how leaders deliberately devolve their power. The empire had simply grown way too massive to communicate effectively. I mean, a command from Rome took weeks just to reach the frontier. So what did they do? They cut the territory in half, and eventually even divided it by 4, setting up these mini capitals like Trier and Milan much closer to the borders. And because of that, Rome itself eventually became this grand but largely symbolic white elephant. But alongside this massive political fracture was a huge ideological fracture as well. This timeline tracks a really stunning reversal. Back in 33 AD, the Roman state literally executed Jesus. Jump to 203 AD, and they're publicly executing Christian martyrs like Perpetua, mainly because their exclusive monotheism threatened the traditional Roman pact with the old gods. Then in 250 AD, Emperor Decius actually mandates empire-wide pagan sacrifices just to try and restore order. Yet, by the early 300s, Emperor Constantine completely flips the script. He aligns his ultimate imperial power with the Christian God. The defining enemy of the state officially became its defining faith. Which brings us to our final lingering thought. Did the Roman Empire ever truly fall, or did it just evolve into the blueprints of our modern world? From the physical roads we drive on to our core concepts of citizenship, law, and even the spread of global religions, the mechanics the Romans engineered are literally still running in the background of our everyday lives. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. I really hope this explainer has shown you how the infrastructure, the assimilation, and all the incredible complexities of Rome continue to shape the world we walk on today.